Five Nights at Freddy's, that's where I wanna be.
Five Nights at Freddy's. Five Nights at Freddy's, or FNaF, is a media franchise, mostly centering around video games, that was created by Scott Cawthon, starting with the original FNaF game in 2014. With the franchise now spanning almost a decade, its media consists of 10 main games, 4 spin-off games, novels and comics, as well as plenty of fan games and fan animations. With the amount of traction that FNaF has gotten over the years, it's given rise to a large fandom, resulting in many memes.
Was that the bite of 87?
A very brief summary of the series' story is that it centers around a chain of family pizza restaurants a la Chuck E. Cheese, with one of its co-founders, William Afton, being a serial child murderer who hides his victims' bodies in the animatronics found in the restaurants. There is a supernatural element to the story, with the children's ghosts haunting the establishments, and you usually have to play as a security guard during the night shifts. It does get very complicated as the games go on, so that's all I'm going to say for now. Is it any surprise that they decided to make a movie out of this? Although the adaptation was released at the end of October last year, it was condemned to development hell several years before. According to a 2015 article by Deadline, Monster House director Gil Kenan was set to direct the film, that was being produced by Warner Bros. But by 2022, the film still hadn't been released. Emma Tammy was now in the director's chair, and the oh-so-familiar Blumhouse was set to produce, as stated by The Hollywood Reporter. And they got to it. I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't as invested in the franchise after the 4th game came out. I think my interests just shifted slightly, but I was at the edge of my seat waiting for this film to come out. Did it deliver though? Let's find out. Without further ado, on with the review.
Polos is life, 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 sleep all night and then Polos is life.
The first shot of the film is of a terrified security guard frantically trying to open a vent and escape from the room that he is in. He doesn't manage to get past a fence and he is kidnapped by an off-screen attacker in a cutaway, before waking up to being strapped in a familiarly shaped torture device. This is our opening kill, and it's very standard for a PG-13 horror movie, a lot of heavy implications with minimal on-screen gore. I'm not that pressed about it given the target audience of this film. During the opening credits, we see some typical restaurant kids drawings, although the focus of the shot is a drawing of 5 children with a yellow rabbit. There are also some similar 8-bit style animations, and these are very unsubtle hints to what happened before the events of the film and the main games. The style was also used in minigames in the game series as a nod to the 1980s setting of the pizzeria's history. We are then introduced to the film's protagonist, Mike Schmidt, a mall security guard who has custody over his little sister Abby, following the deaths of their parents. Mike Schmidt is portrayed by Josh Hutcherson, who is probably most well known for his role as Peter Malark in the Hunger Games series. While at work, he mistakes a father with his son for a kidnapper, and assaults the man in the middle of the mall in front of his child. Mike is understandably fired and goes to see his career counselor, Steve Raglan, who is played by Shaggy?
I'm just trying to figure out who you are, Mr. Michael
Although he is originally reluctant to help Mike given his track record, Steve offers him a job as a nighttime security guard at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, but Mike rejects the offer as he doesn't want to leave Abby at night. When he goes home, he has a little tiff with Abby while she's drawing, as she doesn't want to eat, but he gives up.
My friend says you're an idiot.
At least I'm real.
Stephen King, anyone? When Mike goes to sleep that night, he has a flashback dream about a camping trip that he went on with his family as a child. His little brother Garrett runs off while he's tasked with watching him, and when Mike tries to follow him, he finds that Garrett is being kidnapped, but he can't keep up with the car. This explains Mike's outburst earlier and his paranoia about being around Abby. While it doesn't justify his actions, it makes them more understandable and the character much more sympathetic. In a meeting with social services, Mike and Abby's Aunt Jane insists on taking custody of Abby given recent events.
Oh, right. Perfectly normal to sit around drawing pictures all day and talking to magical creatures who do not exist.
Considering her age, that is very much normal, and given the circumstances, it's not unusual that she may find it hard to connect with her peers. Jane's actual motive is foster care checks from the government rather than Abby's well-being, so Mike reconsiders Steve's earlier offer and takes the job so that he can continue to provide for Abby. Mike goes to work his first shift at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, with some warnings from Steve about the electricity being faulty. That's one way to put it. The security monitors look pretty accurate to the games, which I was pretty pleased about. Thanks for banking on my nostalgia movie. Mike finds a tape labelled with his name, and he puts it in the VCR to discover that it's a damaged 1980s style security training video.
State-of-the-art robotic engineering enables our characters to interact with guests in truly lifelike fashion, while cleverly concealed, rechargeable lithium cells give them limited range to roam free.
I appreciate the filters and old-timey graphics for realism, but I would have preferred it to be a bit more crunchy looking, you know? It needs to have that crunch to it. After being creeped out by a Balloon Boy figurine in the locker, Mike goes snooping around and hears noises coming from the stage. He only finds Bonnie, Chica, and Freddy standing behind the curtain, immobile, and falls asleep when he goes back to the security desk. He has the same nightmare, only this time 5 children appear behind him instead of it ending. When he asks them if they know who took Garrett, they run away, and he trips while pursuing them, waking up. This makes sense since, while at work, he's in their presence, while also being tied to them spiritually, I suppose, given his relation to Garrett. While having lunch at a diner, Aunt Jane and her guests are served by MatPat of all people.
Some people say that, but you know, it's just a theory.
Really, guys? Really? I was really shocked by this as I didn't know that he was going to be in this film, but it makes sense given his coverage of the FNaF lore. It's revealed that Abby's babysitter, Max, and her brother Jeff have been hired by Jane to spy on Mike and gather evidence of criminal endangerment. They plot to break into Freddy Fazbear's and trash the place to prove that Mike is bad at his job. Mike repeats the new nightmare that night, this time catching up to one of the children, only for him to somehow be able to slice Mike with his arm before he wakes up. A police officer named Vanessa Shelley comes to the door shortly after this, and points out to Mike that he is bleeding. I guess these kids are Freddy Krueger now or something? Vanessa patches Mike up and insists that he'll quit eventually. When he asks why, she explains that several kids went missing in the restaurant and shows him the powered-up animatronics, although they break down after a bit. While I think this is cool now, if I was a kid back in the 80s in this universe, I would have been scared shitless of something like this. I really wasn't a fan of this kind of thing as a kid. While enacting their plan to trash the pizzeria, Max, Jeff, and their gang are pursued by the animatronics. In a scene that I actually think was pretty cool, one of them finds Chica's cupcake in a locker, it opens its eyes, and then disappears when he looks away, only for him to then be attacked. Each of the gang are picked on one by one, and Jeff sees Chica and Bonnie moving by themselves on the security cameras. After narrowly escaping the cupcake, Jeff is attacked by Foxy as a familiar sound effect plays. One of the ghost children lures Max to the Freddy animatronic, and when she tries to take a closer look, a small hand pulls her inside, only for her to be bisected by its jaws. Vanessa visits Mike the next day, and tells him that Freddy Fazbear's Pizza was broken into. She has also found his sleeping pills, and threatens to file a report if he doesn't have a good explanation. He explains that he takes the pills to help him cope with his trauma, so she lets him off with a warning. For his shift that night, Mike brings Abby to work as Max is now missing, and while he is dreaming, Abby is lured to the stage by the ghost children. Just before Mike wakes up, he promises to strike a deal with the children, and one of the boys has drawn the yellow rabbit from earlier. Mike hears Abby screaming, and assuming that she's being attacked by a burglar or something, he rushes to her aid, only to find her playing happily with the possessed animatronics. She remarks that her friends love her drawings. At first in disbelief, Mike later accepts the truth when he realizes that Abby has been drawing the children this whole time, including a drawing of Garrett being taken. Again, Stephen King anyone? Mike asks Abby if the children ever told her anything about the man who was driving the car, in the hopes that he can get justice for the children and closure for himself. She says that they only speak about a yellow rabbit, and Vanessa is seen guiltily staring at the drawing in the restaurant. In a rather bizarre but strangely wholesome scene, Vanessa, Mike, Abby, and the animatronics build a fort out of the restaurant's tables that night. Despite their evil side, it is nice to see the spirits of the children being able to act like children, if only for a moment. While finding a cover for the fort, Mike goes to touch an older animatronic, but Vanessa stops him, demonstrating that the unstable spring lock mechanism inside can be fatal to a wearer if it malfunctions. If you know, you know. Vanessa refuses to answer why she knows all this, and Mike goes on to say something very creepy to look back on when the story comes together at the end.
I don't think they like me very much. But they do like Abby.
Given that the animatronics are powered by the faulty electricity, Abby gets shocked when she tries to play Bonnie's guitar. Mike takes Abby home, and Vanessa threatens to shoot him if he ever brings Abby back to the pizzeria. The following day, Mike gets Aunt Jane to babysit Abby, and assuming that he's trying to give her away, Abby storms off to her room, scribbling Mike out of her drawings. Mike goes to sleep in the restaurant so that he can communicate with the ghosts, but the dream is different. The children reveal their bargain. They want Abby in return for Garrett. The dream versions of the rest of Mike's family try to pressure him into agreeing, but he comes to his senses and refuses, making the children angry and they attack him. He wakes up in the torture device, but he breaks free, and discovers Max and Jeff's bodies in the room with him. While Jane is babysitting Abby that night, Freddy arrives to pick up Abby and take her to the restaurant, having killed Aunt Jane. They take a taxi driven by Corey X Kenshin, another YouTuber associated with the FNaF franchise. Vanessa has rescued Mike from Foxy, and he tells her about the dream. She finally tells him the truth. They want Abby to be like them, and why the authorities were never able to find the victims' bodies. Their murderer was William Afton, her father, who is now able to instruct the ghosts in what to do. I assume to bring him more victims, again, like Freddy Krueger. They are able to put the animatronics down with one of those electric bug zapper things. When Mike rushes to the stage room, he is confronted by the yellow rabbit. Come on, Shaggy isn't just gonna play some guy, who else is he gonna be? He stabs Vanessa when she tries to stop him, but remembering that they love her drawings, Mike has Abby draw William Afton killing the children, letting them know what really happened. Remember that crappy spring lock mechanism from earlier? Like a true horror movie villain, William insists that he will return, and I assume that he will. There should be a sequel to this. Let's hope that we don't have to wait another 8 years for it. The film ends with Mike and Abby having made some progress in their relationship, and Mike visits Vanessa in hospital. There are a few more shots in the now officially abandoned Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, and one of the main children shuts the door on Springtrap, who is struggling to come to life. To my absolute joy, the perfect song plays over the ending credits. It's not a perfect movie, nor a perfect adaptation, but I enjoyed that. I found it pretty entertaining, but maybe I've been staring into the abyss for too long. I was pleasantly surprised when the casting for this film was announced. I just knew that I had to watch it when I found out that Matthew Shaggy Lillard would be playing William Afton. I also wasn't upset about Josh Hutcherson being Mike, but I don't think anyone could have anticipated all the whistle memes. Slightly off topic, but I found a video explaining all of that I've linked in my description if any of you were as baffled by that as I was. The effects were really good in this movie despite the lack of gore, which is explained by the fact that Jim Henson's Creature Shop were responsible for the animatronics. What can I say, they look great, even cute in parts. There are quite a few deviations from the source material in terms of characters and even general lore. In the games, Mike is actually Michael Afton, William's son. He is killed in one of the endings of the 5th game, Sister Location, and is used as a host for an amalgamation of animatronics called Enard, before being resurrected. William Afton, originally called Purple Guy in the games, does die via the Yellow Rabbit's faulty spring lock, but it's when he is being haunted by the children's ghosts and tries to hide inside it, rather than it being part of his motif. He also does have a daughter called Elizabeth in the games, but her death is also revealed in Sister Location, where she is implied to be killed by the animatronic Circus Baby. There is a lot of other lore around this, and I've linked the FNaF Fandom Wiki as a point of reference if any of you want any extra details. There's also a character called Vanessa, but it's not clear that she's related to William by blood. Maybe this is some sort of confirmation? I kind of want to see where any possible sequels take the story, so I won't complain about it too much for now. While I really liked the use of the Living Tombstone song, I was disappointed that we didn't hear any of the other songs associated with this game. It would have been nice to hear some French opera pieces. The appreciation of the fandom with all the cameos and references was a nice touch, and I'm sure that the series' biggest fans were happy too. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments. Well, that's all for this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and as always, thanks for watching.
The blue and green ones are my favorite kind, but I'll eat the colored ones from time to time, 'cause Polos is life, 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 Polos is life. Sleep all night.